I never had a taste for those office parties. They always felt more like performances and celebrations. People laughing too loud, pretending to like each other, pretending the simmering resentment didn't exist. But that night, I went for her. Megan had asked me. "It's important, Jake," she said, adjusting her earring in the mirror. "He's promoting someone soon, and it looks good if we both go." I nodded. The dutiful husband, but that word, looks, hit me harder than I wanted to admit. I work construction. I thought about honesty, about callous hands, about keeping promises, not optics. We arrived at her boss's house around 8. Sleek, modern, glass everywhere and warmth nowhere. Everything screamed expensive. Nothing felt real. Music thumped from hidden speakers, and small groups circulated, clutching drinks they didn't enjoy. Megan fit perfectly. Always had. She laughed easily, moved with grace, brushing her hand against an arm here, a shoulder there. I stayed at the bar, nursing a beer, watching her belong in a world that never included me. At first, it seemed harmless. She was talking to her boss, Richard, tall, commanding, the kind of man whose presence fills a room. I'd met him once before. His handshake had felt like a test. Tonight, his gaze lingered too long on Megan. She didn't notice. An hour slipped by. The laughter grew louder, the drinks stronger. Her cheeks flushed. Her voice rose above the music. I thought about taking her home, but each time I tried, she waved me off with a smile. "Just a little longer," she said. Then I lost her in the crowd. When I found her again, she was in the center of the room, glass raised, words slurred slightly. "To Richard," she announced. "The best boss a girl could ask for." Laughter rippled through the group. Richard smirked, his hand brushing her lower back. Too light to seem intentional, too deliberate to be innocent. My jaw tightened. She glanced my way, guilt or awareness flickering for a moment, then leaned closer to him, whispering something that widened his smile. Neither moved. People watched. A silence crept over the room, sharp enough to cut through the music. One of her co-workers bit her lip, uncomfortable. And then it happened fast. Richard said something I couldn't hear. Megan laughed too loudly, tugged his tie playfully, almost spilling her drink. He steadied her at the waist. For a heartbeat, they stood there, too close, too intimate, in front of everyone. My chest tightened. My ears rang. I wanted to tell myself it was nothing, but certain touches can't be mistaken when you've loved someone long enough to know every version of their caress. A joke broke the moment. Music resumed. But for me, everything had already stopped. She came over an hour later, her smile brittle. "You're quiet," she said, slipping her arm through mine. "I didn't watch," I said. "You've had enough to drink." She laughed, but it sounded wrong. "Oh, come on. Don't be like that." "Let's go," I said. The drive home was silent, save for the rain tapping against the windshield. She kept glancing at me, searching for words I didn't offer. When we pulled into the driveway, she reached for my hand. I pulled away. "You embarrassed me tonight," she said, frozen, eyes wide. "I didn't," I said softly. "Don't." She turned to the window, reflection blurred by the rain. For the first time in years, she looked like a stranger sitting next to me. The next morning, the house felt different. Quiet, like it knew something had cracked between us. Megan moved carefully, avoiding my eyes. She brewed coffee but didn't drink it. I stared at the steam rising from my cup, pretending to read the news on my phone. Finally, she spoke. "Jake, about last night?" I didn't look up. "What about it?" "I had too much to drink. You know how those parties get." "Yeah," I said. "I was there." "You're blowing this out of proportion." "It was harmless fun." I set the phone down slowly. "Harmless? You had your boss's hand on your waist in front of everyone." Her cheeks flushed. "It wasn't like that. You're making it worse than it was." "Do you even remember it?" I asked. She hesitated. That pause told me everything. I stood, moving to the sink, staring out the window. Outside, the world was calm. Sunlight spilling over the lawn, birds perched along the fence. Inside, nothing felt right. "I didn't mean to embarrass you," she said softly. "It just got out of hand." Then why do I feel like you want to be seen? I asked. She blinked. What? You were glowing when he looked at you. You liked the attention. She crossed her arms. Is that what you think of me? I think, I said, facing her, you forgot I was standing right there. Neither of us spoke for a long moment. The distance between us felt like miles. She looked away first. You're being dramatic, she muttered. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so predictable. The oldest defense in the book, make the hurt one seem unreasonable. The day passed in fragments. Her scrolling through her phone, me fixing things that didn't need fixing. We moved around each other like ghosts inhabiting a house built on memory. By evening, the silence was unbearable. I'm going out, I said, grabbing my keys. Where? She asked. Doesn't matter. I drove with no destination, just miles and thoughts. Every red light replayed her hand on his tie, the way she laughed too freely, the way the room fell quiet. Richard's eyes, confident, almost possessive, haunted me. I gripped the wheel tighter. When I returned home, she was on a couch in her work clothes, eyes puffy. We need to talk, she said. I stayed by the doorway. Go ahead, she said, shaky. It was stupid, I know, but it didn't mean anything. Please don't let one mistake ruin everything. One mistake, I said quietly, or one moment that showed me who you become. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Jake, I love you. Part of me wanted to believe her. God, part of me still did. But love isn't meant to humiliate. It isn't supposed to make you shrink in a room full of strangers. I don't know if I believe that anymore, I said. She covered her face, sobbing. I stood helpless, torn between a man who once adored her and a man who couldn't ignore what he'd seen. That night, I slept in the guest room. The bed was too big, the air too cold. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, finally acknowledging what I'd been avoiding for years. We hadn't been happy in a long time. The party just tore off the last layer of pretending. Days turned to weeks. Work, dinners, silence. One morning, as she packed her bag, she paused. Richard's having another event next month, she said quietly. I won't go if you don't want me to. I studied her. It's not about the party, Megan. It's about respect. She nodded slowly, eyes glinting with guilt and resignation. I'm sorry, she whispered. Maybe she meant it. Maybe she didn't. Apologies don't rebuild trust. They just decorate the ruins. That weekend, I packed a small bag and drove to my brother's cabin a few hours north. No speeches, no fights. Just a note. I need space to remember who I am when I'm not being forgotten. The lake was quiet. I sat on the porch, watching trees ripple in the wind. For the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. Not happiness, not yet, but clarity. Sometimes betrayal doesn't come as a kiss in the dark or a hidden text. Sometimes it's a laugh too loud in front of people who know better. Sometimes it's a slow erosion of respect, disguised as harmless fun. A few days later, Megan texted, "Are we okay?"